Okay. Hopefully that's better. Hello, everybody. I was just talking about with Sissoko coming on late and, kind of having instructions about where to go to for set pieces. We had nobody on the edge of the box, which was kind of frustrating because Matty Pollock won the header and he was up and attacking Rathbone, who got the final goal, because there was nobody there. There was another person who was challenged with him, etc. But we missed it. It's a frustration. But did we get what we deserved out of that? Did we get less than we deserved out of it? What did we think about the game overall? You let me know. You let me know. It was a rambunctious championship game. Some people I've seen have said, two poor, teams having to go at each other, but it was, that sort of fair. What do we need? Because you've seen a team there that's been, put together pretty quickly. We always talk about a manager needing time, but as when we spoke to Rob Ryan Red in the week, I said, fair play to Phil Parkinson because he has to keep assimilating players quite a lot. What do we need? What do we need? You let me know. You let me know what you think. Let's get up to somebody who has, let's face it, skin in the game, both here and in Wrexham, and then we'll come to everybody. But yeah, sort of pleased, sort of frustrated, sort of the defending the set pieces. We knew that Wrexham were going to hit us with set pieces, surely, didn't we? Didn't we, Rich, sir? How are you? Rich, are you with me, sir?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, thanks. I can hear you. I thought for a moment I've just been talking to nobody in particular, but I'm glad I'm talking to you, Rich. Sir, as ever. Oh, I'm trying to pick the emotional bones out of that, and I'm not quite sure where I sit with it. But it was an interesting blood and thunder game. What were your thoughts? You start us off, sir. And again, as ever, if anybody wants to make some contributions, either put it in through YouTube in the comments, put it in Twitter in the comments, or indeed, if you're on Twitter Spaces, hit the request button. Come on, let us know what you think. Rich, what did you think?
I thought we deserved to win the game. I thought credit to the Watford players today. I thought they got stuck in. I believe that we were stronger than Wrexham. I knew the game plan for Wrexham, and it was to rough us up. And I think there was only one team that were roughing up one team today, and that was Watford over them. Yeah. So full credit to the players. They scored a couple of nice goals, and there was some effort and everything that you can't complain about from the actual players. However, we have a coach who really, to me, is doing nothing at Watford. He's a lovely man, they tell me, nice man. Nice man isn't a job. And we look to him today in that last 15 minutes to make key changes to shore up a game that Wrexham had literally chucked on every person that was a striker in their squad.
Yeah. And
we did nothing. We took off Kayembe, who, to be fair, I thought was excellent today.
Yeah,
had a very, very good game, as did most players. I'm not going to pick out anyone. Once again, we give away a stupid, soft goal over the top. Otherwise, I'd be saying that defence today was outstanding. I thought Abankwah was outstanding for a game. Where has he been? This is another one of the frustrations. We have Ngaki unfortunately falling ill overnight, and we've not got Petrus even in the squad as an option. Disgraceful that he's not even in the squad. We've got no Duomo. We've got one of the Mendes sitting on the bench today, and I think he's still sitting on the bench today. Why is he not coming on to help that midfield? The players were looking for support from their coach today, and all we ended up with was a coach walking around the ground having been sent off for what I've no idea. Because if there's any passion in that man, I don't know what it is. I am really fed up with Javi Garcia. I have no way that I don't want to see managers changed all the time. But at the end of the day, this is a team that we support that Pozzo has given us. Pozzo will change managers left, right and centre until he finds a manager that fits the squad. Javi Garcia does not fit this squad. And I'm sorry, there's players are not going forward under him. and I don't think we're improving. And I'm really fed up about it. Now, some fans say, oh, well, we've got some injuries. No, we've not. We've got 2 players out, which is Bar and Vata, who are the players that would probably get in the first team, although neither of them were actually starting all the time. Vata was starting, Bar comes on every now and again.
Yeah.
And there's Wiley, who, to be honest, wouldn't get in ahead of Bowler anyway. And yet we've got, as I say, 2 Mendes, Duomo. A Banqua today has shown you what he can do, and he's been nowhere near it, which is disgusting. And Petrus nowhere near to be seen when we needed a right back. And thankfully, a Banqua did the job. But it's just, I just don't understand it. And with that, that's points thrown away yet again. That's another draw for Watford. And people are going to say, oh, yeah, we haven't lost in 9.
Yep,
so
true.
what? So what? We haven't won for ages. And, we're not winning games. And people are saying, oh, we're a few points off the playoffs. Well, so are about 15 other teams.
Yeah, it's very close.
This is the championship. You can throw a blanket over it, and that you can make a case for about 12 teams to be in the playoffs. Something has got to change. And we don't have a manager that has got any ambition to do things apart from he keeps picking the same players week in, week out. It's terrible. As I say, the crowd's dwindling. We're now running a club that's barely getting 10,000 through the gate. I know for a fact it was just under 10,000 at the game the other night. What's it going to be next Saturday? There's an apathy around, and it's frustrating because I've enjoyed the players today, and full credit to them. And I will end on a positive because they've been excellent, but they were let down by their coaching team today, who were literally doing nothing, where you saw the opposing manager doing everything to get something out of that game by attacking players on, chucking people on to try and get back into it. All we had to do was put a couple of extra players in midfield, stop the ball getting forward, and we didn't. And set pieces we're dreadful at, and they knew that, and they kept peppering them, and eventually it was a corner that cost us. And I feel for the players today, and people have got to understand what is this all about. If you can't give more, to your team as a coach today, I just bored with it. I'm just getting sick of it every week. And I was pleased today. I had a lot of personal reasons for today.
Yeah.
I don't mind sharing that. My nephew is lead first team analyst at Wrexham, and he's a Watford fan. The poor lad's been getting pelters from the Wrexham players this week because he's a Watford man. And so I was torn today that, and I could have been there in the VIP area if I wanted to be, but 6-hour round trip with my personal issues is not very easy for me to do.
No.
And ultimately for my family, the draw was great today, but I felt for Watford players today, and they deserve more from their coaching team. They deserve to have players around to help them. They were blowing out their arse, some of them today. Cipriano had a much better game. Yes, he still makes the odd mistake, but he was blowing out of his arse at the end. I feel for Pollock and Alain, who I thought were excellent, apart from the soft goal that we gave away at the beginning. I mean, that goal is you wouldn't see out of place on an under-11 game on a Sunday. Straight over the top for centre forward. I mean, God, give me strength. So it is frustrating. We are what we are. We're a mid-table, average football team that has a little bit of a spark now and again. Full credit to them today. They deserve more than they got, and we were let down by our coaching team. And we're going nowhere under Javi Gracia. And so you might as well cut your losses, because this squad isn't suitable for Javi Gracia. We've got some good, bright, attacking players being stifled by him, in my opinion. And yet again, points go begging, and that's it. And I'm disappointed, but well done to the players. Good luck, good for them. Pleased for the away supporters to a point, although they deserved a victory. And yet again, we just cannot hang on to a lead. We can't keep a clean sheet. And this guy's meant to be a defensive coach, and he is, but he can't keep a clean sheet. And pathetic.
Well, I mean, from a coaching point of view, Rathbone had come on for Hyam, so he'd taken off one of his centre backs, playing 3 at the back, taken him off, and brought on Rathbone. And you and I have talked about Rathbone when he was at Rotherham.
Yeah,
I always liked him as a
Rotherham.
player in the Championship before, and he obviously went down in order to, join a club on the up. Rathbone, and fair play, and a good strike from him. You can't deny it. But they were putting the ball in the box. They've got Kiefer Moore. They'll put the ball in a. No, I'm not going to call it. I'm not going to call it an industrial fashion. They put it in the ball in the box because you know what? That's where goals come from. And they were winning firsts, and all over the park were winning a lot of seconds, right? Well, I thought we looked tight. I thought we did okay. I thought we did well. I thought it was an improved performance, kind of all over the place. However, if we could have two things for Christmas, and it might be a kind of what do we want for Christmas? It'd be, can we clear the ball properly? Because the amount of times, and for all of this isn't down to Grazia, although you can talk about coaching that, the number of times we don't get a decent contact on a clearance it is astonishing. Actually, also the number of times we have to take to control the ball at this game was quite strange as well. But also winning second ball. Winning second ball is something that we have to do, and absolutely on the edge of our box. When the opposition have brought Rathbone on, it wasn't because he'd made a tactical switch, so to speak. And obviously by that point, you're probably just about Javi was starting his long walk around the pitch. However, that it does suggest that opposition managers will change the balance and the formation of their team in order to try to get a tactical advantage over the team that they're playing against. And typically what you will try to do is react to that, especially when you're trying to hold something, rather than just necessarily stay with the 4-4-2. Not because it would have made a difference from the free kick, or from the set piece, and therefore it's spilling out necessarily. You can still set up for that, of course you can. However, the influence in that last 20 minutes, that was coming. And there would have been something you'd have liked to see, and I agree.
This is what I'm saying, though. Stop the corner happening in the first place. It doesn't happen. Yes, you got to defend a set piece, and we can't do it, but stop it happening in the first place. And we didn't, because we didn't stop the ball going forward, because we just sat and didn't do anything, because they were blowing out of their arse and they were looking for support. Bringing Cisco on in the whatever it was, the 89th minute. I mean, what is that all about? When Mendes sitting on the bench that could have come on there, tucked in nicely, and tightened it off and give the shield in front of the defence. And, fair play to Selvig. He's come back and been absolutely excellent today. There's a lot of good performances today. There's a lot to be, positive about.
Good.
And there was a disgraceful refereeing display. How Moore has stayed on that pitch is beyond belief. I mean, that's a red card every day of the week. But, it's not about referees at the end of the day, but it's part of it. But Watford, we are under Happy Grazia, we are just going to plod along. We'll probably end up staying mid-table. Whatever people want to keep getting excited and thinking, oh, but we're only so many points away from the top. So are 12 other teams, as I've already said. And a lot of them are a lot better than Watford. And, we don't know how, we really don't know how to win games. And teams are getting stronger, and they're going to improve in January. And I doubt we'll do anything because, Javi is just exactly what he was before. Nice guy isn't a job, and we need somebody that can get something out of the team. This is the team that we've got. These are the players that we've got. We need a coach that knows how to play progressive football with this coach. Look at what the Swedish guy's done coming into Middlesbrough. They've picked him specifically for the squad they got, and they look fantastic. We are going backwards under Grazia, in my opinion. I don't see him improving any players at all. The two players that were really improving, Bola and Gakia, were doing that before Grazia come along. I'm not seeing any player getting better under Grazia, and I don't see us I just don't see us doing anything other than plodding around mid-table. Now, for some, that may be okay, and I accept that. But just remember, people, Gino Pozzo, Scott Duxbury, they were the ones that told us this season we're going to have a go for promotion. I don't see a squad of players put together by Gino Pozzo and Scott Duxbury, managed by Javi Grazia, having a go for promotion. I just don't see it. If you're sitting out there listening, thinking, well, I do, great. Go, enjoy it, fill your boots. But I don't see it, and I've been around the block enough times to see a football team when I see one, unless there's some big changes in January. I don't see us going anywhere. and that may be it, But as I say, today for me, I'm fairly comfortable. My nephew, who I'm very close to, has not had a bad day. He's not getting sick now. And as a family, we got a draw. And for this weekend, fine, great, I'll enjoy it. But for Watford fans and for Watford players today, I'm a bit sick because we should have won that game again, like we should have done the other week, like we should have done the other week, like we should have done the other week.
There we go.
Someone else have a go, Pete.
Will do, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed, as ever. Look, Rich always gets us going in every sense. In that, starts us off well, has thoughts, has opinions, and shares them. If you disagree, or you agree, or you want to, or whatever you might want to say, stick it in the comments. Hit request if you're on Spaces and you just want to go, no, I disagree, or whatever you want to say. It's absolutely fine. Melanie on YouTube said Wrexham deserved the draw, to be honest. I mean, especially after that double, triple save, then finally scoring it, but then it was offside. Great work there by Selvik. But the other side of the Selvik coin could be if we took the ball out of the air rather than punched every time, would we take the pressure off? The answer is yes, because so many times the ball spills out because we don't do that. Hey, is he capable of doing that? I don't know. Let's get down Cornwall way and find out what Dave Carpenter thinks, because I don't know about you, but I want to know what Dave thinks. Dave, sir, what do you think?
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hello, mate. I'm fine. Thank you very much indeed. It was a Desmond. It's all finished as a Desmond 2-2. But it was, you heard you've heard what Rich said. Kind of frustrating by the lack of tactical response, limited by the players who we don't get to see unless there's absolutely no other option like James Abankwah. But there is that flip side. There is that flip side of 1 from 9. We are in close proximity. If OJ is correct, then I think we're within five goals, 5 points of the playoffs. Is that an improvement? Not really, when you should have been 3 points off of it today and after. But what are your thoughts on today and everything?
Well, I was just going to say, because I feel a little bit out of the loop at the moment because I haven't seen a game for so long. I think the last time I was on was the last time I saw one. And there's been kind of 4 or 5 games in between. I know. I've listened to audio. I was waiting in line of the night, but it was so late, and I think I fell asleep with you on my chest. So there you go.
We've all had bad nights like that. But I mean, let's face it, you pulled a munter there. I'm sorry. I do apologize. Carry on.
Well, I mean, I slept soundly, so you've obviously done something right. But yeah, I mean, listening to Rich, I've said it in the past, I like listening to Rich. He's got a lot of knowledge, but I'm going to be controversial. I do disagree. I think we are hanging in there. We are within touching distance, and I know it is frustrating. I'm completely with everyone else. I was watching the feed coming through, and I was just cooking for the boys just now, and then I see it's 2-2. I'm thinking, oh God, we just need to get over the line, and it is frustrating. You want to know what I cooked, don't you?
Of course I do. Greg's coming on next, and he's now eager to know.
Sorry, it was just okay. Well, it was a Thai red curry. I've just done them, so yeah, it was lovely. I like it. I like real stodgy rice as well, so they've had that. They're quite happy with that.
Nice. I think we all approve of that. Carry on, sir.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Momentarily back to the football before we get on to food again.
Yeah. Well, I've got some other things to talk about as well. But anyway, so Rich, I can understand his frustration, but I do think we're hanging in there. I do think that Gracia is a good coach. I think that he's getting a tune out of an otherwise team that would be lower down and a little bit, further down the table. But we just need that little run of we are getting results. We are getting points. You draw your away games, you're doing all right. I mean, we've won a couple of home. We just need to get over that line. And I don't know what else we do about that, because he's not inexperienced. So you say bringing on Sissoko, no one wants to see that. But there's obviously something in Mendy that he doesn't like, or he's not ready, or I don't know why he's sticking with the set. I mean, I know as a coach you get your favourites.
I would suspect, and I could be wrong, that there's 5'6" reasons he doesn't like Mendy. I don't think he likes having somebody who is going to be very really not useful at set pieces, in the air either way. And I've known, in my time coaching, I have had players come to me, managers come to me to go, well, who have you got? And I've got this. And the first question they ask is, how tall is he? You know, now
Right.
that's not necessarily wrong because it's a feature, but sometimes it's disappointing because you want them also to focus on, well, what other things can he do? But if you're a defensive midfielder, then you can understand from why you go with with a good player who's 6'4" rather than a player who's 6'5", 5'6". So sort of I can understand it. The question's got to be is if we keep changing manager, and if the manager that we've got is seemingly wanting to, if you, I don't know if you heard or saw his press conference this week. He basically,
I was going to say about that.
Yeah. He basically turned around and said, "Now, and if players are frustrated and think that they need to go and find a better option there, then maybe that is the best option."
Move on.
But
he also said, he also said when I don't know who the reporter was, but he said, "Are you looking to bring anyone in? Like strikers?" And he basically said no, which I don't know if you heard that as well, or whether I was just barking up the wrong tree. But I was really disappointed in that as well.
I think that would have been prior to Mamadou Doumbouya's selection to go with Mali to the AFCON.
Right. Okay.
I mean, if the selections had gone the wrong way, then we'd practically be writing off, late December and January already, because you could have lost Marma and Loser. Fortunately, Morocco are so strong that they're going without them this time. Fine, great.
Yeah.
But we could have lost a lot more. Can we really play two up front for the best part of 4 or 5 weeks and only have one striker? Two strikers playing them the whole time. The only option would be, and you'd need to ideally have your wingers back and fit, would be to get back to playing little Imran Kunda through the middle. Because the one thing we don't get is what caused their first goal is a run from deep going up to and beyond the forward line, which is what came from Josh Windass, and he hasn't got anything like the pace of Imran Kunda today. Maybe you use that, but personally, I'm of the opinion we might see somebody whose name is Emmanuel if he has got fit by then.
So and as much as a lot of people don't like him, he might offer something. We'll see, but it's legs, isn't it? At the end of the day, I'm a bit jealous, of the likes of Hull. I was listening to TalkSport and they would obviously go around the grounds.
Hold on. I'm jealous of the likes of Hull. Those are words that have never been used in the English language before. And
they haven't. But
we've got people who
take it back.
Are in Hull who are close personal friends.
It's too late. So they've got obviously I was listening to the commentary and it's like Ollie McBurney's come off the bench and he's run through and he's scored the equaliser and you're like, oh damn it. Why haven't we got that type of player that could have just and that's why I was worried, I think, in the press conference, thinking, well, why can't we get ourselves an Ollie McBurney?
I agree with that.
Come off, so that sort of thing. So,
I like this very much. As you're chatting away, by the way, on YouTube, people can see me kind of flicking around and having a look at some of the comments. And thank you so much for all the comments, both on Twitter and on YouTube. But I like this. Sam comes on, and we'll get through all the comments. But here we go. Agree entirely with Rich. We're lacking tactically. They made the changes and Yavi didn't react, just went like for like. There is no plan B. But then 2 messages later, Liam, Rich is talking shit. Grazie are doing the job. Look, this is the point. This is football. It is subjective. There is no right or wrong answer, to be quite frank. It is all a game of opinions, and we're here to mull them over and chat about it. If you had, you said you're here to kind of contradict it and go, well, hold on, no, I think we're in a sort of a good position. Is there? I'll play devil's advocate to your devil's advocate here, Dave. We like this. The last few seasons, we've been in a similar position and gone, if we need over the next few weeks, if we get some results, we'll be in and around the playoff position, rather than where we sort of currently are with that group of them. But it's never quite happened. What do we need to do? Either from the coaching point of view, i.e., what does he need to do as a coach rather than change? Do we need to change coach? What do we need to bring in more in the squad? Because January is approaching like a yawning, January, I suppose, really, transfer window. What do we need to do to finally make that jump and not repeat the last 3 years of basically kind of sitting in mid-table and never really kind of getting up to it?
That's a hypothetical question that you don't want actually to answer it, do you?
Well interpreted, though. I like that very much. That was clearly, Pete, that was clearly rhetorical. Carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. No, it is a funny one, isn't it? Because, well, look, like you said, it is subjective. There is no right or wrong. I mean, well, there is a right. We win every game, but we don't know the answers. I think actually we're still there. Like you said, it's 4 points or 5 points. It was 3. Now it's 4, but that's 2 wins, and we're in 7th or we're in 6th, and there we are. We have to maintain it. So we're not far off. I don't think he has to. We just need to stick the ball in the net a bit more. I was thinking at 2-1. I was thinking, we could pinch it at 3-1 here. We could go for it. And then obviously it's a late equaliser. So you never know what's going to happen. So who knows?
Hey, who knows? Today it was close, but no cigar. In a Telegram group that we do, I asked people and I gave my opinion. What's the best possible outcome? What's the worst possible outcome? And what's the most likely? And I said most likely was 2-1 to Wrexham. So I feel like I'm up on the day. The worst case scenario was James McLean putting a hat-trick into Kiefer Moore of chances, and that didn't happen. So I'm definitely up on the deal. And I hoped we might get it 2-1, which we came so perilously close to. All of these games are always at close margins. Sorry, sir, go on.
Well, no, I was going to say, and it would have been a very different conversation if we'd had 1-2-1.
Absolutely.
We would have all been on it going, he's a genius. Oh, keep him. So, it's... I will say one quick thing before you bin me off. I know there are other people that have got far more interesting things to talk about.
Okay, I've got a big red button and it says bin Dave off. Go on,
mid-sentence. No, I'll tell you what. I was listening to your the podcast the other day.
Yeah.
And imagine my despair when I found out that Barry from Watford wasn't a real person. So there you go. I don't know if I'm in a minority here. I don't know.
Well, we had Alex Lowe, who is a fine actor of long repute. He is befuddled and confused because he has been a QPR fan. So he had a picture. He had a picture of QPR versus Wolves, and then his son decided he would do the same thing and support his dad, but ended up supporting Wolves by mistake. So now he has to go to Wolves. But no, he's a lovely guy, very funny. Clinton Baptiste and Barry from Watford, and just lovely guy.
I haven't been upset. I haven't been that upset since I found out Barry Scott from Sillet Bang wasn't real either. But there you go.
What?
Did you not know?
Oh, for God's sake! Startling realizations. We need a new manager, and Barry from Sillet Bang doesn't exist. What's going on?
I know.
All right, Dave, sir. Look, next time I speak to you, I expect you to have done your homework and looked up all sorts of various bits and bobs. Let's carry on there. Let's get Dave moved. Dave, we will catch you very soon, and we will get to Mr. Wendover Horn. Mr. Wendover Horn, where are boots are you, sir?
Well, it's not just Mr. Wendover Horn. We've got 2 for the price of 1 today.
Oh, who we got?
Jason, my fellow Patreon, is in the car with me.
Good evening, Peter.
Oh, look at this. This is good. I like this very much. Hello, Jason. Right, so 2 for the price of 1.
Puerto Rico.
So come on then.
Go on, Jason.
You've been at the game. Who's going to start us off? Because we've had obviously Rich who is worried that we've not got a proactive manager. We've got a lot of squad players who aren't being used, and we're not countering what other managers are suggesting that could be done on occasions. Where do you two fall, and who's going to start us off?
Well, I'll start. So, but I think the easy thing to do is to criticise Javi today.
Right.
From my own point of view, it's easy to say, the Wrexham guy got it right. At the end of the day, he was 2-1 down, and it's easy just to throw bodies on the field. It's not quite so easy to see the game out. From our point of view, I thought it was fairly inevitable. If you keep throwing the ball in the box enough, something's going to drop eventually.
Yeah.
And it did, which was deeply frustrating. I think from our point of view, I do think Javi, his substitutions baffle me. He brought Chak on again. The bloke's just not fit. You can see he's not fit.
Yeah.
It needed, and what we haven't got is blistering pace in the side. It needed just an outball over the top, because they were creeping further and further up the pitch. They were condensing the game into a very small area because we just didn't. Every Watford player was running back to their own goal to receive the ball. And I include sort of Chak, Kiembe, Dumbia, and Semedo in that towards the end. They're running. They needed to play the ball over the top to relieve some of the pressure, which is what we weren't doing it. It was a frustrating afternoon. I think a draw was probably a fair result in the end because we didn't do enough second half. Didn't really offer much of a threat second half. You know, I'm frustrated with Harry. I think he could have made his substitution. His substitution could have been better. I don't see Sissoko was a problem.
2 minutes.
2 minutes he was on for. You know,
Oh, I think we're momentarily losing them. Let's see if we can get them back. Nope, that's not working. Ring back in, guys. Ring back in. We were somewhere there, and I was busy mending my computer at the time as well. So sorry if I was a bit away. They'll call back in a second. Let's get Uncle Ron on because he's been in and out as well. And we can't have too many things going wrong all the time. Mr. Ron, Mr. Rupert, Mr. Ron, Mr. Uncle. How are we doing, sir?
Hello.
Hello. You sound round and lively, sir. I like this. How's you? What are your thoughts on the day?
I'm very, very disappointed, Peter.
It was close, but no cigar, wasn't it? In terms of the result and in terms of the performance, was very nearly what we wanted. Are we there? Justin, I can't hear anybody. Yeah, okay, I've gone. I will bear with me. I will come back in a second. Bear with me a second, Ron. This is where we play Harem Scarum, by the way, everybody on YouTube. Da 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 da. Reconnect to space, right? Ron, are you there, sir? No, Ron's gone. Let's try and get Ron. If you want to request to come back in, that would be most excellent, and we can get to talking to you. Justin, can you hear me there?
Right, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
I can hear Ronnie sort of went halfway through that bit.
We're having fun and games, and I'm also having computer issues at the moment as well, which is a pain in the butt, to be quite frank. But never mind. Let's get Ron back in. We will get there, and then I'll mend the picture thingy on there as well.
Hello,
Ron. I do apologise about that. That was all me, not you at all. You were probably talking eloquently, and I wasn't getting the benefit of it, nor were the YouTubers who would like to have the. We were both disappointed at the result. Tell us your thoughts again from the top, if you will, sir.
Okay, well, I thought Rich's call was magnificent. I thought it was a magnificent call in.
Okay.
And I agree with him. And I think Garcia has got such a, I don't know how he's been allowed to get away with it from other supporters. He was sacked for a reason by Pozzo, just as Quique Sanchez Flores was sacked for a reason. And only this rotten owner, imbecilic owner, would twice bring back someone he'd sacked before. It's insanity what's going on. And the players, I think they tried their hardest, but we sat back. We sat back, and Phil Parkinson went for it, and Garcia did nothing. He didn't change anything. He didn't react to anything. And we let in the first goal every game. That's not changing. It happens every single game we concede first.
I don't think there's any disagreeing with you there.
It's very poor, Peter, but we have this rotten owner who will not bring in a head coach who hasn't failed before, who hasn't failed elsewhere. And that's the problem. And then you've got to look even deeper than this. You have the head of media, who we all believe to be Kevin Affleck. And I'm not going to say anything about that TikTok thing. What I am going to say is no one has been told that he was appointed the head of media. Why? Why the furtiveness? Why is Formos Mendy training alone? Why is Petris suddenly out of the picture? I don't know. There's some sort of rumor about Mogi Bayat. I don't know. But either way, you have to sort of this furtiveness, this unpleasantness that always lurks in the club with Pozzo, that you have players treated very, very badly. I feel very sorry for Foremost Mendy. What's the truth of it there? What's the truth about Wiley, Peter? We're just told back every week. He's not 100 years old.
I must confess, I am not fully aware of what is wrong with Caleb Wiley. You mentioned a few things there. Kevin Affleck was actually mentioned on the one of the things that we asked for with Parlaci was an organisation chart, and what got given out was less than an organisation chart in my particular view. But that's not me thinking it's wrong or furtive. That's me just having come along and dealt with organisation charts in my time. But what it was basically a list of the direct reports and the directors who basically roll up to Scott Duxbury. An organisation chart will chart most of the salient pieces of the organisation. This falls short of that, but it is available via the website, and it did include Kevin Affleck on that organisation chart. So I don't think that's particularly furtive, particularly in that respect. Yes, there was an item put out on the TikTok the other evening, which I found out after the show, which seemingly came through from the official Watford TikTok account, which was, I mean, I'm not going to get into kind of suggestions about what was on there, but suffice to say, it was extremely negative, and it'd been put out by the official channels, most certainly. And of course, I would imagine that probably somebody who is an unhappy employee who has access to that, and this is me surmising, it could have been hacked, I do not know, has done so and put something out on there. Now, in terms of talking about Caleb Wiley, my understandings are that he is basically struggling for fitness, and that it's a not dissimilar situation to somebody like Courtney Hawes, whereby it's a question of, in order to get over an injury and come back in good time, an element of it has to come from the player himself, a preparedness to get up and fight when he's when he's there and he's ready. So he's not been involved because he's not been injured, but he's not particularly in the injury treatment room, to my understanding. However, you have to take that as read, because those are what I have heard. I haven't looked to substantiate those. In terms of Duomo, I mentioned it the other day. After a change of agent, you can have a couple of interpretations, if you will. One is that somebody's looking to move away, from the club, or they're looking to move away from the agent. We have an agent from whom he's moved away from, and he's not really. He was suddenly kind of not in the thinking of the club longer term. You pay your money, you take your choice on that. Is it great? Does the club treat its people well, its players well? On the whole, I would suggest there have been long periods, where we have not done well enough on that particular thing. And I would like us to treat people properly. However, I would suggest, and I appreciate that, your thoughts on Pezzolano as a manager, my thoughts of him as a man manager, and my understanding of how he was, the change of that was to improve that element of the club, i.e. treat people better, and hope to see that kind of work better. So there's a lot of stuff there up in the air, as to whether or not you agree, knew, or any of the above. That's my take on it.
Well, I go back to Rich's point about who has he improved, Garcia. He hasn't improved anyone. And whether he's nice or not, it's irrelevant, because the owner said, this is the owner, it's not us saying, let's sack a manager every 3 weeks. Well, actually, I want rid of most of them, but the majority aren't saying it.
Yeah.
But the owner said that he sacked Pezzolano. He wanted promotion this year. This is the weakest second division for many a year, Peter. It is the weakest. It is indisputable how poor it is. It really is. and we can't. And we get a last gasp equaliser against a woeful Sheffield Wednesday team. We should have got something today. We're not getting promoted. We're not getting promoted. We can't even keep a clean sheet, and we can't string 2 wins in a row together. And again, I mentioned the owner, the rotten owner, who will not even contemplate having a shit house in the team, someone like a James McLean, an Andy Hesenthaler type of a Gavin Marr. And I say it all the time, but it's true. You can't just have these talents, and there are talents in the team. You can't just have young talents. You do need a couple of shit houses, and you need a manager who you haven't sacked before, and he doesn't even drink sangria. We had a lucky run to the cup final. And again, it was the worst surrender I've ever seen from a Watford team. You could have got any team out of the League One or League Two. They wouldn't have lost 6-0 to Manchester City that day. We didn't lay a finger on them. The players went out there as if it was a testimonial. It was so timid. And then the following season, the pre-season, was wretched. And the start to the season cost us the Premier League status. So he was rightly sacked. And they bring him back. And there aren't that many jobs in the top 2 divisions. What are there? 20 teams in the Premier League and 24 in the 2nd division.
Yep.
So it's not as if it's an unpleasant thing to do. People, there are up and coming managers who've succeeded elsewhere, who haven't failed elsewhere, who you could hire. And you're prepared to pay the compensation when you sack these people and their coaches.
Yep.
But you're never prepared to pay compensation for an in-work manager. It's absolutely baffling and stupid to me, because if you own that football club, if you're Pozzo, and you want to sell it on, your best chance is if the club is promoted. But you won't do something as simple as hiring an in-work manager. And he'll never learn. It's his football club. He enjoys it. He enjoys playing football manager in real life. It's not Watford Football Club anymore. It really isn't. It is Pozzo Football Club. And the appetite, I'm not going to get angry or upset. I've had that before. The appetite for Pozzo out campaign, it's not there. We know that. I'm not going to say anything against some supporters. It's not there. It never will be. So it's Pozzo Football Club, and we have to accept it, and we have to suffer it. And maybe one day goodbye will be farewell. Let's hope so.
We will see. As I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm in that devil's advocate mood today. And Ron and I have had lots of back and forth, which is always good fun. I like it. I'm going to say one of the things, obviously, talking about, and you quite rightly called out your point that the owner should pay somebody, pay a club to go and get a bona fide successful manager, rather than bringing in managers who are out of work at that particular time. And that can stand for a reason. Obviously, a lot of those managers may have moved previously for paid. I'm thinking of somebody like Ranieri or Hodgson, etc. It still didn't work. Obviously, the money you pay for them is a bit like a transfer fee, and therefore it's dead once you've done it. But I'm going to play the devil's advocate and say the 9 games with the 1 defeat, whilst I don't disagree necessarily that not many players have improved individually over a relatively short period of time, but it's a fair point. Collectively, have we slightly improved? And from your point of view, can you understand why people would hear you saying, I'm now calling for this manager's job, straight away, because you were pretty much doing it from the off, because you didn't approve of it because of his previous stint, I grant you. But with 1 in 9 and being where we are, can you understand other fans subjectively hearing you say this and going, but we're on, it's 1 defeat in 9, and we're not that far off maybe from a tipping point in the right direction. What are your thoughts or responses to those that might put that forward to you as a for instance, a hypothetical, so to speak?
It's an interesting question. I think many people are clouded by his Garcia's apparent niceness, and none of us live with him. We don't know what he's really like, just as we don't know what any manager's really like. But You have to judge it by results and what the owner wants, and the owner wants promotion. It's not a normal football club where it's everything is there to be scrutinized and nothing smells bad. There are many things that smell bad, and judging by what the owner wants promotion. When I said, the thing is, Peter, it's the weakest second division for many a year. So being there or thereabouts isn't good enough. So no, I think people should be angry, actually, with the situation. Very angry.
Well, there have been times when Ron and I have disagreed, but we've always found common ground, and that ground is that the fact that the Championship should be called the second division. Goddamn right, old money. That's what we're after. Absolutely, Ron, sir, have a fantastic weekend, and hope all goes well over there. Wendover clearly hasn't yet got back to reception area. I don't quite know where it is. I mean, let's face it, if you're in North Wales, I'm sure there are pockets of difficulty, but when they do, I look forward to getting Jason and Wendover back. I've mended the computer whilst doing all of that as well. God, how pleasing is that? Let's get out to Adam over in the States and find out how things are with Adam. Adam, sir, how you doing?
I'm all right. Sitting in the car waiting for my order of tacos.
Oh, Taco Bell?
No, it's a little Mexican, real Mexican.
Authentic.
Authentic. Yeah.
Okay. You sorry. Everybody's going, oh Christ, Pete's on food again. We'll never get him off. You're quite right. Come on then. What have you ordered? What can you get from said taco stall?
Pollo, chicken,
Okay.
chorizo, and asado, which is like steak.
Ooh. And what have you gone for? What have you selected, or have you got a selection thereof?
I just select the chicken, steak, and chorizo tacos.
Which
Splendid,
is the correct answer. Whilst football may be subjective, tacos simply aren't. Well done, sir. Well, before you indulge in your Mexican feast, what were your thoughts on today, sir?
I thought it was probably a fair result, if I'm honest. I mean, it's always sucks to lose in the injury time. Well, I didn't lose, but get a draw. But I couldn't really blame the defense this time in terms of the goals that we conceded. The first was a long ball over the top. He took it well. The second, good sub, I guess. The ball fell very kindly to him, and he just kind of hit it into the ground, and it deflected. So not much he could really do about it.
Nope. Very true.
Yeah, they were fair. They pressed us a little more in the second half, I think, and we did not create a lot in terms of we didn't test their goalkeeper very much, but it's sort of a Watfordy performance. I said to my wife, we're watching the game, it's like 9 minutes in. I said, we haven't gone 1-0 down yet. So it's like, that'll be coming in a minute. And I guess, what was it, like 20 minutes or something? So.
Yeah, it felt like, I mean, to me, the frustrations, and not being daft, you can have frustrations without saying you want the manager out. And I thought, for me, when you are a manager, there's really only three things you can choose to do. You can choose to stick. You're not going to make any alterations. You're going to stay. And who's not to say that that's not perfectly valid until the 93rd minute? You can change personnel, or you can change shape / instructions. I mean, of course, there's kind of waving people on and all of that sort of stuff, but that's as much about your own energy as anything else. And I like a manager who will be a little bit more forthright, a little bit more bold, a little bit more proactive. But the thing today was, with your 2-1 up, you're not gonna necessarily change it. If you're not going to be proactive, at least make sure you're reactive. Is where I think there are reasonable brickbats to be had in terms of, damn, we've lost. We've lost 2 points there. Realistically, that's what's happened. But overall with Yavi, are you Yavi in or Yavi grumble? Because I think that's where the twos are. I don't think we can have a Yavi out quite yet. Even for us, that seems harsh.
Just before you answer that,
go on,
Peter. The outer ring are experiencing issues. I believe. I'm getting some message to that effect.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I will. Adam, just stay there and I'll be back again. Twitter is having a funny. It's being a technological disaster today. The outer ring. Well, I'll let Justin stay there and explain it to you all. I'll be back in a second.
Explain outer rings for sure.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do what I need to do. So I'll catch you in a second.
You do what you need to do.
Sorry, I was sitting there chatting to Justin about outer rings for a moment, and you can't be doing that, really, can you? You're not bothered about rings, right? Hold on, everybody. Yeah, yes, because we've lost a lot of people on the space. Let's reconnect to the space. Right, back in again. Let's see if that switches on.
Back in again.
Can you hear me there? Hopefully people can hear.
I can hear you.
You got me right.
I was hearing you loud and clear as well.
What happens for anybody hearing, and what we describe as outer and inner rings, is effectively, if you are a listener, you are on what we call the outer ring. When you are elected as a speaker, and when you come on, you'll know that you miss a bit of it skips forward a little bit because there's a delay as it goes to the outer ring. If you're in the inner ring, everybody can normally hear, but knowing that everybody else can't hear it is sometimes a bit of a difficult job. Hopefully people can hear us, and if not, you can pick up all this nonsense on the post-match pod, which we will get out too sweet. But there we go. Where were we, sir, before technology was
Yavi in or Yavi grumble?
Yes, Yavi in or Yavi. Yes, Yavi in or apple crumble. I think that's a very good. That's a good way of splitting people into two groups. Where are you feeling with him?
I'm still Yavi in, but I would like to see him, occasionally change formation. He says he can change formation, but I felt we should have gone with 3 in midfield today, and he still went with a 4-4-2. So,
yeah, there was quite a level of expectation, indeed hope, that that there was going to be a change of shape, and a number of people I know, for example, the Buzz podcast will put in a thing which I don't think was 4-4-2. There were times when with Kayembe today, especially when he was on the left, where when the ball went down the right, he would push into centre, and you would have Mama push forward, and it would almost turn into a 4-3-3. The danger with that is, when you then lose the ball, there's nobody there to cover a breakaway on the far side. But it's always an interesting question, because every manager or everybody who's asked will say what a good manager will do is have a good understanding of lots of different systems. And we debated this, before he had his first game back, was you will have a number of systems, and you basically pick the one that's that your players match the best, the best formation for all the players to possibly use. Yavi tends to, despite the evidence that he'd done 4-2-3-1 out in Qatar, that he'd done various other things, he does seem wedded to this 4-4-2 or 4-box-2 as we like to see it, and it doesn't necessarily feel like this team or squad is suited to it in the same way as his previous one was, primarily because you haven't got people with telescopic legs like Etienne Capoue, and people who run box to box like Abdoulaye Doucouré all day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's a frustration. It is indeed a frustration. So there we are.
So,
there we are.
Peter, I will be at the ground next weekend.
Ooh, of course, it's Stoke. It's magical Stoke. This is good. I like this.
So, I will come down to the bunker if you are going to be there.
We will be. I will be, absolutely. We'll be in and around the bunker, in and around the family zone. But I'll be in the bunker to meet you there. So we like to put our patronage in both of those particular areas wherever we can. So that would be great. Yep. Come along, sir, and we'll say hello.
That will be wonderful. I'm not doing hospitality this year, so we're just going in. I think we're going to the Graham Taylor stand.
Fantastic. You're in the cheap seats with the rest of us. That's what we like to hear. Well, Adam, sir, safe flight over, most importantly. Well, as everybody, because if we lost that outer ring, I think a lot of people would have thought that the Spaces has ended. Let's get into some 5 words. We'll find out whether or not Wendover and Jason kind of come back into view. But let's go through the YouTube comments first of all, because everybody's been sitting there putting some great comments in, and then we'll go to that. OJ, for whom I shall now call OJ, said, again coming out with a disappointment. We were 8th at that moment, and then down to 13th again. Yeah, it's a frustration, but I will say this: it only matters where we are in April and May. Once everything is finished, we want to be in touch, absolutely. But it's 2 points drop. That we know, and it really does chalk where kind of that sense of momentum and that kind of idea of coming back down with 3 points from North Wales would have been really good. Suddenly 6 points up to the playoffs. I guess that is what it is this season, says OJ. Oh no, suddenly 5 points to the playoffs, I guess. Sorry, there was a lot of things where the no sound was going on because we've had fun and games. Now Mark Schofield comes in and says, I am fucking well annoyed that we threw 3 points away. Absolutely. Sam said frustrating again, 2-1 up. Melanie came out and said Wrexham deserved the draw. We had chats with Nathan from Rob Ryan Red. We will remember that correctly one day. Lovely guy. Lots of lovely reaction to the podcast from Wrexham supporters as well, which is very, very kind of them indeed. Bearing in mind, we like to understand, what's going on. Phil Parkinson, for example, good manager, done very good things, done exactly what Graham Taylor did. 1 division down at the moment, but he could go one better. Imagine if he could take them into the Prem. Now, I appreciate that lots of people turn around and go, Wrexham, they've all got money. But when every fan of every club, bar 2 or 3 or 4, complain about their owner, do we really have to give it large to every club who actually goes and gets a decent owner who's going to invest in the club and take them up? Well, we don't think so. So there we go. Mark came back and said, that was such a great opportunity to grab 3 points, and we blew it. Yeah, no, my point about Sissoko wasn't the fact that it's Sissoko. It's the fact that when you're coming on with 2 or 3 minutes left to go, you don't necessarily go through the tactics board of what you're going to do with set pieces, here and here and here and here. It's more a question of you've got to get on now and try and help us out. And the fact that we had, and I'm putting that together probably erroneously, with the fact that we had nobody sat on the edge of the box on Rathbone, and therefore Pollock, who won that first header, was the one who was nearest to pressing the ball. Once the ball had been cleared, he'd taken a touch and went and hammered it. And so I just think that one thing is just, these margins are so close and they are so frustrating. Sam said frustrating again, 2-1 up, and we stopped playing. Subs were poor, he says. OJ, sorry to say, but our goals were the result of luck, and the Wrexham goals were a result of bad defending. Now, the first goal was horrific. First of all, and we've talked about this, crikey, I think it was about the last 4 weeks. My first job when we haven't got the ball for a forward is to go and press the ball, go and put pressure on the ball. Now, in 1996, I was at a coaching symposium with a guy called John Cartwright. John Cartwright was a maverick within the FA. He was ahead of his time. They didn't know what to do with him. He was Don Howe's assistant at Arsenal, for example. Lovely, lovely man. And in 96, we were talking about a young Brazilian striker, the first Ronaldo, Fat Ronaldo, as he's now been called. But at the time, he was simply devastating. He was tearing the place up at probably Barcelona, I imagine, at the time. He'd done it at PSV Eindhoven. And John's comment was, a British coach would have him working when we don't have the ball, and he'd be too knackered to show us what he can do when they get the ball, etc. Now, I understand what he means. When you've got an attacking talent that good, what are you going to do? But with due respect, our attacking talent isn't the same kind as Ronaldo, and I would want them to try and put pressure on the ball, because their centre back or centre midfield got it and put the ball in between the centre back, which was Max Elaine and Boller, excuse me, brain fart, completely unopposed, and they had Windass running through. The ball got to within about 9 yards of the goal line. Neither Selvik has come out for it, and we haven't got back close enough. Once again, Pollock is the one who's compensating and trying to get as close to it as he can. Wonderful finish from Windass. He puts it right across Selvik. But you look at that kind of goal. You look at that kind of goal from Watford's point of view, Watford's perspective, stopping that goal going in, there were so many things that contributed to it. The lack of pressing upfield, the lack of reaction from both Bola and from Elaine, in terms of trying to get back in. The positioning in the first instance was poor. The structure was poor. The fact that Selvik could have come further out earlier and made it more difficult, perhaps, maybe even dealt with it. Maybe he should have been standing further up, because if you haven't got pressure on the ball and we're pressed up, you're very vulnerable to that sort of pass. So a lot of things. But ultimately, it comes down to frustration for all of us from an emotional point of view. Was it bad defending? Sure as hell it was. Was the last one? I don't know, set pieces, when we score them, we score them. But for me, it was just that, who's going to be on the edge of the box? And we didn't have anybody on the edge of the box, and that's structure. That's organisation. Good to come back from a losing position, says Mark, but it's getting ridiculous how many times this happens. It's every fucking game we play. Absolutely it is. Melanie says, I'll be at the Vic next week as a Christmas present to myself. Just win, please. Absolutely. I agree with that, Melanie. Love to see you there. That would be great. Pollock was excellent, says Sam. Question over the midfield, and HK out of form. No Petrus in Ngakia's absence is strange. I like Yavi, but he's actually questionable. And I think it's okay to question a manager. I think the difference is that no other club immediately goes, I don't know, I'm questioning the manager, he has to go. But that's a reflection of the culture we're in. That's a reflection of what the owner has done lots and lots and lots and lots of times. Agree with Rich, says Sam, we're lacking tactically. They made the changes and Yavi didn't react, just like for like. There's no plan B. He mentioned it earlier on. And that, I think that is a fair thing to throw at him. I think that's a fair thing to throw at him. Are we tactically inflexible? I'd say so. I really would. Does the squad on occasions help him? No. Does he help the squad by not choosing, a number of them to come in and participate? No, not really. He doesn't. But let's get across to, let's see if we can get across to Wendover and Jason, who now hopefully have hit the motorway network and have some kind of, hopefully some kind of coverage. Let's see. We've got a spinning wheel of doom, but we're there. Victory at last. Jason, Wendover, making your way back. Are you on the M6?
We're heading to Caddock at the moment, but we keep dipping in and out. So
okay. Well, you tell.
We'll probably
Wendover go.
We'll probably be brief.
Okay.
We're coming obviously from an area in North Wales where they only discovered electricity a fortnight ago.
All right. Okay.
So,
far away.
so
Let's leave the
probably-
disparaging
that's
Welsh
probably the
comments. Okay, go on, him. What are your thoughts on the day?
I couldn't hear a lot of Ron. Thankfully.
Mhm.
But have we just lost? It's all doom and gloom. Have we just lost? We've just got a point from somewhere where clubs have found it very hard to pick up anything from in recent weeks. So it ain't all that bad. I thought the centre halves were excellent. And I didn't think it was a bad performance at all. Yeah, we can say, Parkinson made loads of sense. It's easy for him to make subs when he's chasing the game. This is no disrespect for you, Peter, but I think it's a ridiculous question, have he in or have he out? Have he in, of course. It's just ridiculous.
Well, with due respect, right back at you,
right.
That wasn't the question.
He's doing all right.
With due respect, that wasn't the question. The question was Yavi in or Yavi grumble, which we then turned into rhubarb crumble for no apparent reason.
Okay, I dipped out then. It was
you dipped out at apple crumble.
I thought it was an in or out.
No.
Ask me about my favourite Ask me about my favourite subject, which is the transfer window. The January transfer window.
Yes,
is a time to adjust your squad. It's not a time for a rebuild.
Nice.
It's time to adjust what you've got.
Okay.
Now we can adjust to Javi's system. Now it's obvious he doesn't look right, Petrus. Send him back to Shalawar. They were sad to see him go. Let's have our £2 million back. No problem. Fomos Mendy, obvious that he's homesick. Send him back, free up some budget, maybe get a left-sided centre-half in. No problem whatsoever. AFCON, maybe you might be right, might be Dennis. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. We can readjust in this transfer window with a budget that it will all depend on what we get out, and the budget will be used. The wages we were paying on the players that are leaving for the players incoming. It'll be it'll be an adjustment window.
Okay. He has got, I mean, and it's not just us mentioning it, it's the Watford Observer. It's, Andrew French was talking about it today. We have got so many players who are not traveling with the squad, who, if a player goes down, for example, young Ngakia, who apparently had sickness, and obviously there's a lot of flu about, there's God alone knows what else around, meant that a Banquo was thrown in at right back rather than you would have thought Petris. That notwithstanding, what were your thoughts on a Banquo this afternoon?
Very, very well. Awesome. Defensively, very, very well. He's not going to nothing going forward. He's not going to bob on and give you what Jez has started to give us going forward, but wouldn't expect him to. Defensively, I thought he was outstanding. I like Abanwa. I like Abanwa. I know Kevin wasn't on for very long, but he was a definite downgrade in that position from James. James is a good player. James is going to be a very good player. Also, Ronald, keep going banging on about the second division. It hasn't been the second division since the early 90s. Now, I know his rhetoric in using the word second division. I know his rhetoric from using the word second division because it sounds a lot worse than it actually is.
Well, I use the word. I typically
heard this rhetoric for year after year after year.
Well, no. Hold on, hang on a second.
It's not that bad.
I tend to use the phrase second tier because it sort of covers all naming conventions, etc. I know I came out at the end of it and I said, no, I agree with him because, I'm old school. Let's face it. Evidence shows that I'm old school, and I remember that, and I like that. I don't think there was an insinuation made that about the second division in terms of that, because the championship, whatever its name, has always been bonkers.
How many times are we going to hear about Andy damn Hessenthaler? Yes, Andy Hessenthaler was a decentish player in a very poor side. So I'm bored about hearing about Andy Hessenthaler.
He had lovely legs.
He had lovely legs. It'd be quite average today.
Frankly, it sounds like Jason is as big a fan of Andy Hessenthaler's legs. They were huge. Exactly. No.
Look, it ain't that bad. If you'd have offered me 2-2 at 8:30 this morning when I got into my car, I'd have taken it. I'd have taken it. So it ain't that bad. Got to back it up next Saturday against Stoke. But we've got an adjustment window coming up, and we can adjust to have his requirements. So obviously he doesn't fancy some players. Yeah. Petris is one of them.
Yeah.
Petris is obviously one of them because he would have gone. You lose your right back. You've got another one. Well, if you don't want to even bring him in the squad, you don't fancy him, do you? So let him go back to Shalawar. We'll have our £2 million back, and we'll get another one. that Harry likes.
What I would say, just jumping in,
go on,
say about the reasoning about a Banquo today, and I can sort of see he's obviously defending the far post from crosses. So I can understand today why you would pick someone who's a bit more physical. Because Bowler can handle himself when he can bother to jump. But he could. I would understand why you would probably play someone like a Banquo at right back, because the ball's going to come graded, and it did. You watched Gedney, from Lithuania or wherever it was, and and he had to head the ball away. I thought he was excellent. I thought the back four as a whole, as a unit, were very good. It's just they switched off on the first goal. I mean, that was pretty. Sunday league stuff, really.
Okay.
But after that, Matty Pollock.
Matty Pollock. And Little Mendy's been mentioned. He just didn't bring Little Mendy on because the ball would have been kept going over his head. That part of the game, they were very, very direct. It's a mixer. Little men about as much use as a chocolate pie. And obviously it's Jerry Joe fancy him. So
Oh, we were trying to do so well there. I did make out, for anybody who didn't hear it, that Mendy would have been as useful as a chocolate fire guard, which obviously is not really a useful piece of fire retardant kind of equipment. Anyway, there we go. There they are, coming on the way back from Wrexham. He's quite pleased. Look, if frankly, and it'd be nice to kind of talk to him about it with him here, but yeah, hey, if you want to bring up Andy Hessenthaler, if you want to bring up Cliff Holton, you want to bring up anybody, you absolutely can do. It's your opinion, and we don't try and change people's opinion here. We just try and give you an opportunity to voice them if you think. So let's get back to these 5 words, because these are kind of micro opinions. And Sam agreed with Rich and agreed with, kind of large parts with what Ron was obviously saying in terms of lacking tactically. Did feel like, Phil Parkinson was, he was bringing on players, but he was also making adjustments and changes. And our answer was, well, no, we're going to frustrate you with the same thing. Now, 4-4-2 was used for years and years and years and years, and it's a very robust system. And you can argue that, but for one set piece, we'd have won it. Those are the margins. Those are the close sticks. Those are the calls that managers have to make. Who knows? Who knows? Melanie said, "Oh, please stop moaning." Who, me? You must be joking. I mean, I've been here for 3 years. I haven't stopped moaning once. Rich is talking shit, as I said, says Liam. Grazia doing the job. Opinions differ. Love it. Maybe overdosing the criticism, says OJ. Yep. Why the fuck did Grazia bring on like for like when he needed more strength at the back? We should have bought on an extra defender for one of our strikers, or one of our strikers, for a defender. There was a lot of talk about, are we going to maybe switch to a 3 at the back? Are we going to do something different going forward? It was almost more of the same, as I mentioned earlier on, with exactly where Kayembe was, meant that there was a slight alteration when we had possession going down the far right, and he would push it almost into a 4-3-3. You can say whether you like that or not. Johnny Myers said, I would have taken a draw before kickoff, but still tough draw. Loved watching Pollock all match long. Oh, well, that's the way Christmas sugar cookie biscuits crumble. Yes, absolutely, grumble. We're back to that again. John, excellent point. Thank you very much for that. With Ngaki out, says Mark Schofield, Petris should definitely be in the squad. Also, Abankwa should clearly be getting more game time. Mendy should be used as a sub to shore up the midfield. Potentially, as I mentioned earlier on, the height element seems to be, and I didn't mention it about today specifically, but more about why managers do tend to prefer taller players in general. Rich people are unwell, have no money. I will be there next week and spend £100 doing so. It's not that easy for a lot of us. No, absolutely. Then she and Mark got into a tit-a-tet, which ended up with he from Mark. We'll let that one go. Rich is being ridiculous, said Liam again. He would have sacked Jokanovic after 2 defeats in a row during his promotion campaign. Well, the interesting thing about Jokanovic, I don't know if anybody remembers this. You remember that game where Elton John came along to have his stand named after him, and he was wearing his brown coat and his yellow and red and black scarf. He was interviewed. He was at a tennis tournament in London in the week, and they were interviewing him for ITV or whatever, or BBC, I can't remember which one it was, and saying about, well, you're going to come along and having your stand named after you. I mean, the amount of things that have been named after Sir Elton John, you'd probably get kind of, yeah, whatever. But this is his club, let's be honest. So it was like, yeah. And they said, and what do you think? He said, so much is going on well at the club. The only thing is, I'm not sure about the manager, because at the time he wasn't really pulling up trees. So if Elton John can do it, then hey, maybe Rich can do it as well. Who knows? But Liam's point is, no, have faith. And that's as valid as the other way round. Sam, it does feel like there is so much more within that squad. It just isn't being utilised or maximised. Frustrating is the overwhelming emotion for us this season, says Sam. Mark's back again. He said, I hate that rolled-eyed emoji, as it reminds me of her using it all the time when she is annoyed and angry. Who's that? Pidge. Oh, hello. There's Pidge from DMA. He says, oh, love the phoning, guys. Well, when it's working, which over the last few weeks, we've had a couple of bust outs, which have been annoying. We like to chat rubbish after a game if possible. Mark's out of 10. First half 7, says Mark. Second half 5. Substitutions 3. Grazia 4. For shit clubs getting and a red card, he says. Okay. Have Oh, Pidge, miss you guys, says Melanie. Look at this, having a chat with Melanie and Pidge, having a little chat tete-a-tete. I won't reveal that all to the world, but he did said Mendy can be our version of Kante in midfield. Well, that was exactly who Leicester bought to replace Kante. But as I say, some people, and I'm absolutely one of those. I put my hand up to it. In midfield, at the base of midfield, I would like somebody who can drop in and win a header on occasions, and I doubt Mendy is going to be, kind of front and centre for that. 5'6". Oh, might have something up his sleeve. There may be something coming from Pidge. Watch out! Watch out! Watch out! Let's have a look. Lots of Merry Christmases. Wrexham now unbeaten in 8. Yeah, they were unbeaten in 7. They'd also. This is from TJ26.26. They've only lost one game at home all season. And we came perilously close to being the second one to do them, which would have been great. But it didn't happen. Okay, we're not far off, says OJ, but we don't play well, do we? We need to start dominating and winning matches. Also away, absolutely. Sam says the league isn't full of quality. I don't disagree with that. We've had so many opportunities to build momentum and consistency, and we're seemingly incapable of it. Good performances aren't built upon, like we've had 2 chances missed this week. It's, 5 points from 3 games. And I think if it could have been 7. And the difference between those, okay, yes, I know it's 2. I'm not that stupid. But the psychological difference, the emotional difference is a lot more in terms of having one of those weeks where you go, well, look what we've done. We've had a home win, we've had a home draw, and we've had an away win. That feels like that momentum of which Sam speaks. And the problem is when it happens just at the end, it feels like the momentum stalls. If Wrexham had gone 2-0 up and we'd pulled it back and we'd been the one scoring, we would be cock a hoop here. Well, a bit. We've had a number of games where we've kind of got late draws or draws after going behind. Of course we have. But we'd be talking about character. I just think it's one of those that's the points are all valid. I think the fact that we are a little bit inflexible. It means that when, as we heard from Rich, his nephew is the lead analyst at Wrexham. If you do the same thing week in, week out, it makes it very easy to put a plan together to counter what you are doing. Therefore, tactical flexibility does give you some form of advantage. ADTV Vlog says Rich is way off it. Things are far better under Grazia than they were under Petzolano. Let's have a look. Buzzing Hornet says we shouldn't worry. Those that say this is a bad squad playing badly haven't been a fan for long. Oh, you're wrong there, I'm afraid, but I, that's fine. Remember Scott Loach. Now I have to say that is an excellent time in the sentence to pull out the Scott Loach card. And I refuse to play FIFA with Watford. He was that bad. Back the players and you have, he says Buzzing Hornet. I've got to say, I was arguing halfway through the sentence, and then he got to the Scott Loach clause, and I buckled, to be quite frank, buckled. Brad 1181 says seems like when we win, everyone above us wins, so we don't move position. But when we draw or lose, everyone below us does as well, and we end up further down. I think that's the point about the league, and I know a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's a terrible league. It's a terrible league." Everybody can beat everyone. That means the margins to success and the margins to failure are incredibly close. It's not going to take that much to get us to move forward. However, many of those people will point out the fact that we've all said that, me included, for about the last 3 seasons. That's my question earlier on. What's it going to take? What's it going to take? Didn't see the game, but Kimby on the left, says Brad. Rich is blowing out of his arse, says Graham Bartholomew. Well, I've seen him before, and no, he's quite fit. Doesn't tend to blow out of his arse. Oh, I see what you mean now. Yes, of course. Let's have a look. Jack for Dnsye isn't a shadow of himself. He's not friend with the ball, says OJ. I think he's going to take a little while to come fully back. He's had a long time out. He hasn't really had a pre-season preparatory kind of stage that long, realistically. Not in with everybody. There's going to be a lot of stuff that will take it out of him. So I think we just have to hope for it. Don't buy Sillet Bang, says Dave. That was after we discovered earlier on that Barry from Sillet Bang is not real. Hollyman 48 it says, I can't hear anything. Oh, that was me. Sorry, Caden. Everybody speaks about how they want an owner like McAntony and then say silly things like only Pozzo would bring a manager back for a second time. Darren Ferguson, been to Posh 5 times. Well said indeed. That's a very good point. Well, but also, this is from GT Official 1423. Thank you for that very much. as I said earlier on, people slack off, the moment the Newcastle get the Saudis, the moment, Man City get everybody, and the moment some people start kind of laying down cash. But the same thing, obviously, with Wrexham. The moment they get an opportunity to kind of build themselves above their perceived natural station, fans have a go at them all the time as well, which is why when we went on and we chatted to Nathan and we said, people do this, and you could almost see him going, yeah, here we go. Well, we're not going to do that, because we had the same sort of thing with Elton John, and the legacy of Graham Taylor and Elton John is the fact that we are still in the top 2 tiers, whether or not you call it the second division, whether or not you call it tier 2, whether or not you call it the championship, or for a while it was division 1, when they were really having a branding issue. But, no, all good. Predicted would have been Desmond beforehand, says Josh Lewis. 2 teams that love a draw, better at attacking than defending. Nah, draw's a fair result. I mean, it was, other than the last 5 minutes, I thoroughly enjoyed it, even though it was, my big thing is get people who can clear the ball, because a number of times we don't clear a ball cleanly, and second ball, and especially on the edge of the box. Obviously, I've done that to death. Lucas says team 2-1 up away from home, and home team go for it and throw strikers on. Shock. Sack the manager immediately. How many times have we seen the opposite of Vicarage Road? Well said. It's very true. We have seen it a lot. TJ26 says Ron wanted Yavi sacked today if we lost. Now that's not fair. Ron wanted to have him sacked after he'd been appointed. I don't think he'd had a game at that particular point. He had taken again him for the previous thing. A lot of people turn around and will talk about the FA Cup final, give him no credit for getting to the FA Cup final for only the second time in our history. The only time, of course, as everybody knows, we've done so previously, was under the remarkable man GT. If you give him credit for getting there, then turn around and say, but I fucking hated the FA Cup final. Fair enough. Stand in line, have a biscuit. I get it. I get the fact that some people really didn't feel like having their asses handed to them in front of the whole world on the potential big day was a great thing. No, of course it wasn't. But to turn around and say it's a weak run, it doesn't matter. You can only beat what is put in front of you. And I didn't think it was a weak run. You don't go away to Newcastle and win up there. Was it 3-0 from memory? I can't remember. Crystal Palace. That's not an easy game for us. Crystal Palace have long been, kind of a nightmare for us. So I think give him credit for one. If you want to have a go at him for the other, I still look at, and I appreciate other people will spit on the floor and stick pins in their Pete dolls, should they have such things as Pete dolls. At 5-0 down, when the fans decided we were just going to, at the FA Cup, and the flags went up, the fantastic flags that have been used for that semi-final and for the final, by the 1881 who put them there. Well done, fellas. That became a symbol as everybody was coming away. I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I got Manchester City fans who basically couldn't be bothered to even stay in the stadium to watch their team pick up the trophy, who were just going, you guys were amazing. You're 5-0 down. Nothing you can do as a fan is going to change anything at that point. Everybody stuck together. For me, it was a positive. For others, it wasn't. Bada bing. Arinaldi stands in with the press after Grazia's red card, says Josh Lewis. Claims embarrassing and shocking decision not to award a free kick for a foul on Tomato before the equaliser cost Watford the win. That's according to Adam Drury. So go to the Watford Observer and read more about that. Why do we always have problems with players, e.g. Mendy 1, Mendy 2, Duomo, Wiley, Abankwah, etc., says Mark Schofield. Yeah, for whatever reason, it's odd and it's frustrating, because there must be, I think we've all had a look at Duomo and gone, there's a player who can do something. He's got some legs. He's got a little bit of nous. I think he could do something. Wiley, I think, is, as I said earlier on, I don't think his head's straight after an injury. The Mendy twins, God alone knows. On the bright side, KMB was surprisingly solid on the wing. He was. Thank you, Josh. That was a very good point. Former Watford TikTok content employee, hello, Brian, says, an ex-employee of mine dated Andy Hessenthaler's daughter. It didn't last, as he was shit scared of him. There you go. More Andy Hessen. What bollocks, says Emily loves horses. Okay, thank you for that. Mark Schofield says, yeah, and he is off to AFCON. So what's the point? Oh, crikey, we're into all of these conversations. Every time I request to speak, everything goes quiet over on Twitter. That's Caden. Yeah, we had lots of problems. Let's get to Hornet, and then we're going to get to some 5 words and then let you guys crack on. Had to come off Twitter. It's going quiet every 10 seconds, says John. We got it. Lots of people saying the squad isn't good enough and too young, and then blame the manager. Nonsense, surely. After sacking Grazia last time, We have sacked 10 coaches and let Hodgson see his contract out. Yeah, there have been better days, most certainly. Emily says, some people will never be happy. I'm clouded by this negativity, she says. Okay. Gra, says Sam Dublin Hornet. I imagine he might say something more. Stav says, are our fans really complaining that we tried to defend a 2-1 lead away from home and wanting Yavi out? Get a grip. No, fair enough. Your thoughts are your thoughts. How many more times should we sack a manager? Just stop it. You're not a supporter. You degenerate. You denigrate every manager within hours of appointment, Ron. That's not true, but he did with him. Absolutely. Guys, thank you ever so much for all the comments there. 5 words we'll quickly whiz through and then get you onto your Saturday fun, games and frivolity. Inevitable going behind first, says Smitty. Disappointed but still support Yavi, says Catherine Pettifer. Gaz says, so frustrating but so predictable. Cobbers says, naughty Yavi in the stands, yes. James Warren says, fuck your 5 words. Who on earth is criticising Matty Pollock? Mental. Category A+, you Orns. I don't think anybody's criticised Pollock. So, James, I think, no, I don't. I think Pollock has had nothing but compliments. The only thing I've said was that he won the header and then he was the first one out pressing. That was a compliment, the fact that he was doing that. That wasn't a, no. You'll find short shrift at suggesting that we're criticising them here. But if we did, then we're wrong. Ryan Cripps says, do I not like that? I see what you've done there. Vic Bate says, Yavi's chaos ball ain't boring. Former Watford TikTok is Brian again, everybody. Iran Kunda was the obvious sub. I think the question is with Iran Kunda is, what does the lad need himself? You know, he came on and looked nothing like the player that we saw earlier on in the season. And if he's not right and you're not going to put him on under any circumstances, then it would seem odd. I agree with you. It seemed the obvious one because they're pushing on and that's them prime for a counter-attack. And we mentioned on Tuesday, we don't counter-attack because we don't have pace. Oh, hang on. We've got Iran Kunda, especially if Marma's gone off because the kid is rapid. Maybe he might just be able to do something for us. Maybe it'll make them think about dropping 10 yards rather than pushing on all the time. So, no, I don't disagree with that. Gracia should keep walking home, says Brian. There you go. Inevitable once down to 10, says John Parso. I think that's talking about Sissoko's substitution. Looking intently at Watford TikTok, says former Watford FC TikTok content employee. Threw it away. Poor subs. Willie Eckersike says, so near, but so shit. Pete, unhippie man. Mr. Fincham, who's had, I imagine, an excellent weekend, but says there is always the inevitable. Yes, it has happened. Ian Bacon, still not one in blue. Yeah, but we've at least scored a bloody goal. I don't think we'd scored a goal in blue before, had we? I don't think so. It's definitely not got a point. Hampshire Hornet said, can't defend for shit. Jack Foster says, why would anything else happen? He asks, can we please try defending? Asks Mantelpiece. Big Galoot says, so near, but so Sissoko. Very good. Yellow Army, defensively, just make it so hard for ourselves. Yeah, at the start and at the end. Doom NH says, shit game, management, Yavi's fault. He says, Jason says, 1 loss in 9. Yeah, these are, it's almost like, backwards and forwards. And neither are wrong. You're seeing what you're seeing. You're frustrated at the position we were in. If you go back to the game beforehand, and it wasn't just Greg who said it, I thought it as well, which is, yeah, I think if a draw up there will be a good one. When we were talking to Nathan from Rob Ryan Red, the Wrexham fan, he made some really interesting, used some really interesting language. And he was talking about the results that they'd had this season, and especially in their 7-game unbeaten run, which is now 8 because they equalised, but it should put the result into some context. And he was talking about how many of the results that they've had will age well, i.e., when you come away from the emotion and the proximity of the game, chronologically, when it's so close to us and you're still feeling it, you look back at it and go, yeah, maybe that's not a bad result. Maybe that's not a bad result overall. But obviously, after 92 minutes, when you're leading and you concede a goal, of course, it's going to be very annoying. Mid-table mediocrity. Goodbye, good players, says Richard WFC. Taste the Biscuit 979 says, same average, fair, different day. George puts in a picture of I don't know, say goodnight to the bad guy with regards to Yavi. Steve Woolley says, at what point do we realise 68 managers cannot be the issue? It might be the environment and mentality of the playing squad provided to them. Does the scouting process even consider the mentality of potential signings, lack of leaders in the side and sulking, bloated squad? Beautifully put, sir. Beautifully put. That was Stevie Woolley. Stevie, like that very much. My only complaint with you, sir, contribute more. That was excellent. I do like it very much indeed. And David Sweet says, very poor game management second half. That's all on Javi, he says. All on Javi. Is it all on Javi? Yeah. He's the one who's got the opportunities to do it. But as ever, if you give him the credit for or the stick for coming down, maybe we should give him some credit for going up now. Let's have a look. Oh, Watford Limericks. In this celebrity match, we were trying to give Elton the win over Ryan. Our goals weren't conclusive, a clean sheet was elusive, and once more our defence mystifying. You cannot deny it. That is very, very good. Oh my God, look, there's a picture of me. You don't want to see that. Let's move past that rapidly. Let's get on to the long forms and get everybody on and away. Oh, I can see Rio Wolves listening. Saw you on TV earlier, Rio. There you were with your sunny disposition. That was obviously before they'd equalised, so read for sunny disposition up until that point. Hampshire Hornet says that's a poor away point. Wrexham are not a good side, but we were just as abject with the ball. Said it before, the quality of the championship is on its knees, he says. Yet we've seemingly come in completely ill-equipped with the squad makeup. As for Yavi, what has he changed or improved? So he's definitely in the Yavi grumble camp. Lee J says, is loser suspended versus Stoke? Oh, that's a good question, and one I will answer after this when I've got a chance to look. Banquer is our best defender, hands down, says Lee J. He is a player. He is a resource that has been underutilized. Not saying he's perfect, neither is Kevin. But, we talked after Tuesday about one of the things that Javi's got to do, no matter what, is reintroduce some of the players that he's thrown to the hinterlands. Actually, thinking about it, Elaine is probably the best example of that, where he's actually done it, because he couldn't get a sniff for a long time. It was, nowhere near. My understanding was he didn't fancy a Banquer. Now, seemingly, he fancies him, kind of above the other options to step in at right back. Maybe he doesn't fancy him at centre half, fancies him at right back. Who knows? There we go. Brian's back. He said, if we had a decent coach, we would not be afraid of playing Division 1 sides. Jason Rose says, sorry, Pete, we're meandering our way to Shrewsbury and reception is fluctuating. No problem. But guys, thank you very much for joining us and hope you had a good one. Peter's very welcoming to his inner ring. Thanks, Loco Milky Joe. That's it's a valid point. I don't normally talk about that in public, but never mind. Peter, you keep going in and out. This is innuendo ahoy. Sheila Blige puts in a lovely picture. Let's have a look. Former Watford captain. We're back to Brian. He says Grazia sent off as he was furious that Watford FC weren't given a free kick, which we heard a little bit earlier on. But he says that Arinaldi did the post-match interview, said very unhappy with the ref. It was a clear foul. He, meaning Grazia, got mad. It was a big mistake, he says. Same with you, Justin. What does that mean? I don't know. Going in and out. I hope we solved it. If we haven't, my apologies. It's all going to be on the pod because we kind of record it in two ways and then put it out because we appreciate that this is all on a high wire and it can go off at any point. Uncle Ron said, brilliant from Rich WFC2. Grazia was sacked for a reason before, but only our rotten owner would hire a failure again. Well, no, if it is to be believed, it was stated that at our place, and I'm paraphrasing because I wasn't there, something along the lines of that sacking Yavi had been the biggest mistake that they had made. That was the thought. So I can like it, loathe it, whatever. Carl Campion says, confused by some online comments, we are a mid-table average side who should be in a playoff positions. It feels unless we are winning every game now, the head coach should be changed. We are becoming Gino Pozzo clones. This was something that we debated, crikey, for about the last year. And I described it as, has he kind of contaminated the water, the water table, i.e. do we start kind of having those expectations because that's what the owner does? And I was told by lots of people, yes, and by other people, don't be daft, what are you thinking? both are equally valid responses to anything I ever say. There's Watford Limericks. You had your first performance of that, everybody. We get back to Carl Campion. He says, my theory for the recent poor attendances is due to the queues and waiting times at Boots and other hearing test centres after spending time at the fan zone. It's true. It's loud. It doesn't need to be so loud. I'm just saying. Hampshire Hornet, 2 points against Wrexham, and Sheffield Wednesday, a serious team, would have had 6. I think you're doing Wrexham a disservice there. Sheffield Wednesday, I agree. We should have done it. We did not turn up, and we still got a point. I don't disagree. But this is a team who's had 7 games undefeated. We have had now 1 defeat in 9 now, and I appreciate some people will say, oh, we keep saying it. Yeah, because it's a fucking fact. That's why it's said, and it's a way of measuring it and understanding it. But they had 7 unbeaten. At home, they had 1-5, drawn 2, lost 1. So they're now 1-5, drawn 3, lost 1. We could have been that second defeat, which is a shame. Fine margins indeed. The feed's cutting in and out. Thank you for that very much indeed, John Parzo. Serious Rich, there's nonsense in his reactionary to a late goal after 3 games in a week. A tough game. Yavi set us up well, and that's football. 1 strike away from a Yavi masterclass, it could have been. Matty Pollock was bloody brilliant today. Brian, I do not disagree with that, despite the comment earlier on that we or somebody had criticised. If anybody criticised Matty Pollock today, crikey, no. Andrew Argent says, I feel we just sat back in the second half and tried to win 2-1. We are not good enough to do this, as today showed. We should have gone after the 3rd goal to kill it off and then sit back with a 2-goal lead. Yeah, well, when they equalise, the margins are then known in reverse. There's always a temptation to go, right, well, this is what we're going to sit and do. But he didn't actually bring on more defenders and kind of decide, right, we're going to go to a 3 because they're going to hoy the ball into the box. We didn't do that. Kevin was playing as a right back, which felt even more fish out of water than having a banquet there. Neither did particularly bad job or anything, but it was just kind of, you could adapt the shape, but we don't. We choose not to. That's down to Yavi. He's the manager. He's the coach. Not hearing half of this, I'm afraid. Oh, sorry, Mucky Fingers. If you're listening to this tomorrow, it's now today, and that's therefore very complicated. Sam, what did he say? Rich, which attacking players are being stifled? He asks. Well, the quote that he's using is the At Our Place, where Scott Duxbury stated that, yes, we could bring in an experienced striker, but then we would be stifling our 3 attacking items of talent. I can understand that. I could understand that, especially if all 3 were signed to Watford on a permanent basis. At this moment in time, my understanding is that, no, let's just do it cards on the table. 2 of these players are Udinese players. So, it's difficult to say that that's going to be kind of always the case. So we're not stifling our players. We're not stifling Udinese's players. Now, my understanding is Kieran Gard is basically as good as ours. He's been signed to them. We did something previously when it talked about the kind of getting the what's it called, governing body endorsement to be able to play here, and that sort of worked. Now my understanding is he'll be here, so that'll be that. But with Vivaldo, for example, he is on loan, so maybe we're not stifling somebody for Watford. Maybe we're stifling somebody for the rest of the group. Perhaps. Andrew says, I'd have bought on Iran Kunda instead of Chakfatadze. I just mentioned it earlier on. I don't disagree with you. I think just for his flatline pace would have worried them, would have kept them back a little bit more. Quite pissed off after that, says Jake. I didn't think we even played well. Game management yet again has cost us. Baffling how Mendy doesn't get a minute, and much rather Iran Kunda come on for Semedo. Big result needed next week. Well, the problem was Semedo only came on with 20 minutes to play. So he was a sub bought on. I think you mean rather than Semedo, maybe. Yeah. Sorry, I've got you. Gary Iron, change the bloody formation. That's pretty much the debate here. I like that. Mucky Fingers is back again. Let's have a look. It keeps cutting out, chaps. Not getting half of it. My apologies. Jesse Hornet says, space keeps going silent every few minutes. Okay, right. Well, we're into that sort of territory. Well, look, guys, it's been difficult. We will get the podcast, and this will be, kind of this nonsense on YouTube. Hopefully everybody's heard, I hope. And we will take it from there. we are doing some Christmassy bits, and something you can look out for and enjoy this week was the other day when we had Tommy Mooney on to talk about Birmingham. We also asked him if he had a little bit of time spare, and he gave us some time. And myself, Justin, Carl, and Tommy Mooney went through and did a review, and it's going to be coming out every day this week in parts, where we go through and do the important investigative journalism that frankly nobody else is doing. We review for you what needs to be reviewed, the important stuff. That's right. We're going to be going through each one of the championship teams' Christmas jumpers. And I think that's the kind of thing that you've come to expect from us. And we're pleased and very proud to provide you with this investigative journalism, with the exception of Wrexham, who had no Christmas merchandise at all at the time we did this. Bristol City, who the only thing they had was a dog bandana at the time, and one other who I can't remember for the life of me, but there's one other club who won't be in there. But the other 21 clubs, my God, we go through in thorough investigation. If you are based in London and you are about East London tomorrow, then at 2:00, why not get down to Charlton? Because Charlton women are playing Watford women in what will be the third round of the Women's FA Cup final. FA Cup, not FA Cup final. See where I went from there earlier on. So if you are about, do get down and support the girls. They are still having a good run, but were defeated last week at Uxbridge FC, where they'd moved the game to, against Lewis. So it's a difficult one. The next two games are that FA Cup game at Charlton, who are the division above us, and they are leading that as well. So it's going to be a tough old game tomorrow. And then the following week, which is on the 21st, away at Bournemouth, we are basically nip and tuck with at the top of the Premier South for our division. So look out for all of that malarkey if you're about. Well, thank you very much for sticking with us. Sorry it's been a little bit harum-scarum per normal, but thank you very much indeed. To all it is, Desmond will just say as ever, come on you Warns, as always. I've done that too early. My God, today's technically difficult. Never mind. To all, it's a point.